Title on food, it'll very often say something like that. It'll be a very, very simple title. And therefore, Bollywood just felt like the right title for this book. We're very, very honored to have some very well-known contributors for this, and I want to thank each and every one of them. They've played a fabulous role in putting this book together for us, and my team. We've got our managing editor here, Alka, who worked really hard. We had a very big team. We have a team in Delhi who works in these products, and we have really spent a lot of time and effort. It has truly been a labor of love for us, and we're very, very proud for the product that we've created. Along with the stories, one of the things that we were probably not prepared for was the effort that it took to unearth the images that we could use. And it was, through these sort of, what should I say, the passion of some of the archivists and the passion of people who've loved Indian cinema and have been collectors of all of these images and memorabilia that we were really able to put this product together. And Mr. Asuja is one of those people who was really able to provide us with some beautiful images, some treasures that, we probably a lot of people haven't seen in the past. That was
like, the 80s and 90s, movies from 80s and 90s, which haven't really, although they have their place in the history of cinema, but they've not kind of found the same
own highlights. Yes. So if there was anger in the 70s, there was romance in the 60s. Yes. And there was a socialist element, thread of socialism in the pre-60s, So all that is reflected in the movies that were made in those era. But I feel, most importantly, post-50s, it is the stars who dominated the scene. Right. And so in the book, we had to take care of the great films, the great stars, and, the memorable songs and props, and as she some of the beautiful posters that were there. So it's all, everything contributed to make this book special,
Yes. Karan, your work was, I think, even more challenging in that you went back to the glorious pre-independence cinema as well, and which is, not much is known about it. We know a few movies from the time, but, the things like Hunter Wali, Devika Rani, we know about them, but we don't know too much about them. What was that process like to bring that alive in this book?
See, on one level, I think that was the most exciting part, actually, of the book for me. I've always been interested in the historical aspect of Indian cinema, and the one thing that FTII did when we kind of went over there. Is it working now? Yeah. And even at the FTII, we actually had an entire semester on Indian cinema history. Right. So it is something which I was very into. So in that sense, of course, I think for me that was the most enjoyable part of the book. It had its pitfalls in the sense that there's been a very limited amount of writing on Indian cinema and its history. Off the cuff, I can think of Indian film by Barno Krishnaswamy, which used to be a Bible for us. I think so many cinemas of B.D. Garga, a pictorial history of Indian cinema, Firdos Rangonwala over there. And unfortunately, what's happened today is that it's very, very tough to, to look for stuff because everyone just goes straight to Wikipedia or IMDb and anyone can put up stuff and the facts are all over the place. I think the biggest challenge in that was to really get the facts right of what you want to say. And, be able to put the history of cinema and the eras that I was writing about in some sort of proper context. So in that sense, I would say that my Bible of research were more the older books and the older publications, because at that point of time, many of the people we are writing about were alive and the authors had actually interviewed them, had got quotes from them. So, one was trying to include as much that came from the horse's mouth, really, rather than, make up one's own thing.
Did you find it, Karan mentioned that he went back to a lot of the publications of the time, right? Did you find a difference in terms of the kind of reportage that you saw around the movies of the 90s particularly?
Straight off the bat, it was a lot of fun because, I'm a kid of the 90s. I started watching films in the 90s. So a lot of it was, essentially about just going back to my, I mean, growing up days where I was like, I mean, watching a film every Friday. And so, I mean, that was that. I mean, this essential thrill of a schoolboy sort of like rediscovering like his first love, so to speak. So that was really enjoyable. The second was, I mean, this thing about saying something fresh. That's a great question, I think, because I mean, what really helped for me was in the 90s. I would just watch films. I was really small, so I mean, I wasn't reading like good literature or good journalism on them. So I mean, all the thoughts and ideas that I had about the films were my own, so to speak. Like, I mean, there was no sort of like infiltration of anything else. But then, like, I mean, as you grow up and as you like, your engagement with cinema differs, right? And so I thought that juxtaposition was really interesting, where I was watching or like rewatching a film which I had loved, like, let's say when I was 10 or something, but now I can sort of like engage with it more critically and can still be a little harsh on it, like, just to sort of like see it with someone, like with the eyes of someone who is in 2017, so to speak. And like a lot of things have changed, right? Like in the way we make films, like even the aesthetics of mainstream Indian Hindi films have changed over the years. And so that was really cool. I mean, a lot of some of the stuff looked really cheesy, but it, like, you kind of like look at them essentially with a lot of endearment. And I found that really interesting and really cool, because I was like, this is nice. I mean, some of it has aged really well, some of it has not, but it's fine, And so I thought that was really interesting. The third part, I mean, with respect to reportage on Hindi films, I mean, my pieces did not really require me to sort of like, I mean, because a lot of things are fresh in memory. So I mean, and there weren't like a lot of contentious like dates, events, and stuff like that. Of course, I mean, I did my like a basic fact check. I mean, it was fine, I would say. I mean, I'm sure like there's a big difference in the way film journalism happened in the 60s to like the area that I sort of covered, the 90s and a bit of the aughts. So, but yeah, I mean, again, like the way films are changing, I mean, journalism on it is also changing. So it was fairly fine, competent stuff, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
For the photo op. Please settle down, everyone. I repeat, you all will get an opportunity once again. If I'm still photographers, may I request you all to please step back, all of you. We will not be able to continue if you all continue. So please step back, everyone. Still photographers will have first go at the pictures. The videographers, you all will get a chance. So let the still photographers first click. I repeat, still photographers will get the first chance. Videographers, please have a little patience. You all will get your chance too. I think you all can give a big round of applause. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Sir, in the center, please. Sir, here. The right way. Madam, बैठो आप. Sir, your left, please. Mr. Bachchan साहब, थोड़ा सा नीचे.
Okay. Can we ask the still photographers to please step back? Videographers will have their chance now. Okay. Still photographers. Okay, we will now have an opportunity for the videographers. So still photographers, please step back. The still photographers, please. Still photographers, please move back. The videographers need a chance now. Okay, this is for the videographers. You can't go anywhere. There's no going.
Members of the media and all those that have been connected with the publishing and the release of this book. I'm not going to take the name because I don't like this word, and I've expressed that in my foreword when I wrote. Osaja has been a journalist by profession, but has been someone that has been passionately interested in filmography. And I have always had great admiration for him because there are very few amongst us, unfortunately, that have never taken up the idea or the thought of documenting the Indian film industry, researching it, keeping old memorabilia. And I really want to appreciate your work, Osaja, and for having taken the trouble of pursuing your passion in a way, but also creating something for posterity, for the generations to come. I've always found that we do a lot of work. We've been a 100-year film industry, but there really isn't any kind of documentation of our work. Many a times I've spoken to many of my colleagues and to other people that are connected with the film industry. How wonderful it would be if I could have known what, say, K. Asif was thinking when he was making Mughal-e-Azam, or how did Dilip Saab approach his role in Devdas, or what was Bimal Royji's idea of wanting to make a particular story in a particular manner, why Guru Dutt used a particular kind of camera angle or lighting when he was shooting the song Waqt Ne Kiya Kya Hasi Sitam from this iconic film Kagaz Ke Phool. And these are moments that are lost and forgotten now, and we will never know that. But how wonderful that we have people like Osaja who will collect these memorabilia and keep it for posterity, for generations to come. This is an immensely important document, and which is why I've always wanted to support him in any work that is going to be done in this direction. In the future, Osaja, if you find, and ma'am, if you and any others that are connected with documenting our history or talking about it, I would be the first person to come forward and extend my help and cooperation. Thank you so much for being here. And I feel very proud that Osaja has entrusted me with writing this forward. And this is exactly what I've expressed in the book, that time is going away. In the early days, I can understand there weren't so many mediums of communication, and therefore making a record of something like this was not possible. But now that we do have them, please give it more attention, give it more value, give it more respect, because the Indian film industry is truly a very respectful place. Thank you so much.
So wonderful words from Mr. Bachchan. I would now invite Mr. Nitin Pandey and Mr. Sudhanshu Roy to hand over a token of appreciation. Mr. Nitin Pandey and Mr. Sudhanshu Roy. The still photographers, please be seated.
say we're all big, huge fans of yours.
May I now invite once again Mr. Nitin Pandey and Mr. Sudhanshu Roy to hand over a token of appreciation. Can I request the still photographers to just have a little seat so that the videographers also get an opportunity?